Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast. Here is the king of podcasts.
So I'm not going to do what I did last week where I talked about Taylor Swift about 30 minutes or so into the episode. We're going to talk about her right off the jump because she's had a hell of a week. She has her movie that's going to be documenting her Eras tour. That's going to be coming out next week. And then, again, another NFL appearance just spurs another round of stories that we have to talk about. Because the NFL is definitely now taking advantage of her status and her publicity and what the fan base that she is bringing in right now into football. Now, we talked about the ratings last week for her first appearance for the Chiefs playing the New York Jets. It wasn't the New York Jets. No, the Bears. That's right. I forget now. It was the Bears. And then the Jets. Something like that. Either which way. 2 games in a row. Of course, the ratings were huge for her again on Sunday night. 24 million viewers. I think it was more than that. Maybe it was. But I'm not going to go back and looking for it. It's not important. What is important is what is being done on behalf of the NFL. But this for some real VIP treatment for Taylor Swift. The NFL reportedly asked the TV partners to show Taylor Swift's movie ads for free. This is from Frank Schwab, an NFL betting writer, and the NFL seeing ticket prices and TV ratings going up for Taylor Swift coming out to see Taylor Kelce play. Now, fans are already complaining about how much Taylor Swift is being shown. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the NFL is all in. The league reportedly asked their TV partners to show ads for Taylor Swift's movie about her Eras tour for free. This is according to Andrew Marchand from the New York Post. That ESPN and NBC did it. They covered the cost of running trailers for her movie during Monday night and Sunday night football. And the New York Jets Kansas City Chiefs game during the NBC game, that's what attended. There was an ad shown during the game. So we already know. Taylor Swift is making a big bump to NFL football. There are young fans, young women that are now catching football and starting to learn what football is for the first time. Now, the NFL always does well in TV ratings, but doesn't get shown all the time. Like, this is not where we see, we might see in the press boxes or in the luxury boxes, we might see the owners of a team or somebody else up there a couple of times. But during the Chiefs-Jets game, she was shown 17 times. Now, she's getting free promos for a movie. And by the way, a 30-second spot for Sunday Night Football, which, it's hard enough already that she has things going on with where she gets an ad on Sunday Night Football. Network time is already very precious as it is. And because the NBC already knows they get a whole lot of fans watching Sunday Night Football, the ad dollars are huge. And it's usually up to $1 million for a 30-second ad. She got that for free. In the New York Post story, they downplayed the impact that Swift has had on TV ratings, but the NFL has been cozy to get up to Swift to get her to headline a Super Bowl halftime show. Damn it. In this New York Post story, they also downplayed that Taylor Swift and the impact she's had on TV ratings, but they did say, the NFL, that they've been cozying up to Taylor Swift to do the Super Bowl halftime show, which she declined this year. But right now, this story is not going away. She's absolutely brought more viewers to the games, and it also helps that the team that she gets, people were watching, the Chiefs are a good team to watch. Like, they're one of the most popular teams to watch in the NFL right now anyway. So that's what's going on with that. It helps out. And as for the comments about how much she's being shown, well, Travis Kelce actually talked about this. So I want to go and play a clip of Travis Kelce talking about the kind of coverage that Taylor Swift has brought on as a result of what's happening with her appearance watching him at an NFL football game. The New Heights podcast, of course, wherever you find podcasts, and on YouTube, where his brother Jason, Travis's brother Jason, and Travis talk about, is the NFL overdoing it when it comes to the coverage of Taylor Swift coming to Travis Kelce's games? And here's what they said.
Me and Rob, love my guy Rob. See him in LA this week, probably at the game, hopefully. Okay, let's get right to it. Is the NFL overdoing it? What is your honest opinion?
I think everybody's just like overwhelmed
your feelings
with
for Taylor. What is your honest opinion on how the NFL is treating celebrities at games?
I think it's fun when they show who all is at the game. I think it brings a little bit more to the atmosphere, brings a little bit more to what you're watching. But at the same time, I think
they're overdoing it.
They're overdoing it a little bit for sure, especially my situation.
Right?
Okay, but that's Jason initially that posed the question, and Travis responded back after the second time that Jason said it. So it was, people ran with the fact that they said he overdid it. But because it was Travis Kelce saying it, the NFL had to go ahead and respond to what was being said. And so the NFL defended the recent coverage of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce amid the backlash from fans and even Travis Kelce himself. So the NFL, they said, quote, oh, by the way, on the Instagram bio, it reads that Chiefs are 2-0 as Swifties, and the bio for the NFL on X reads NFL Taylor's version. Just saying, they're going along with this completely. VIP treatment. Now, here's what they said. Quote, we frequently change our bios and profile imagery based on what's happening in and around our games, as well as culturally. The Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce news has been a pop cultural moment we've leaned into real time. And it's an intersection of sport and entertainment, and we've seen an incredible amount of positivity around the sport. The vast majority of our content has remained focused on the game, our players, and a variety of other initiatives, including our Toy Story Fun Day football allcast, the international games, and more. And so some of the places might go ahead and make the comment, but it was the fact that it was Jason Kelce making the point that, they might be overdoing it a bit. And that was what was said. His brother said it, and then he moved along and said the same thing. So I got it. But this kind of stuff's just going on, and we're just hearing so much about it. And who would have thought we were going to get such a deal about it? But she's getting the red carpet treatment. Plus, for the second game, she also spurned a lot of, you can imagine paparazzi are going to be showing up regularly at those games, because then there was a media frenzy, because at the game this past Monday night, she was joined by celebrities, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, a couple, Hugh Jackman, Sophie Turner, who's been staying with Taylor Swift in her home in New York. And this was at the Chiefs game against the New York Jets in New York. Now, what did they do during the coverage? Well, let's talk about it. Variety observed during the Chiefs-Jets match, that much of the coverage was showcased on Swift's attendance, including the game announcers, welcoming Swifties to the game. Carson Daly from The Voice presented a video package meant to introduce Swift fans to the NFL game and give a rundown on Kelce. And also plenty of puns based on her song titles and soundtrack to Welcome to New York. After the Chiefs scored their first touchdown, the camera cut quickly to Taylor Swift, who was seen hugging those around her. Next game will be October 8th against the Minnesota Vikings. We don't know if she's going to be at the game. But if she wants to go, she can. But she does have coming up her upcoming movie, the concert movie, which is already making buku money right now. So as we have learned, Variety reports that the concert film is breaking records before it even hits theaters. And for those that are going to be going to the theaters in 2 weeks, it's going to probably be really, really tough to watch anything at those movie theaters. Now, my problem is this. While this is going on, I'm not going to go see the Taylor Swift movie. First of all, I don't think I could even handle being around a crowd of Swifties watching that movie, because it would be just so, I would just not even be in my right element to watch that. I think if I watched it solo and just watched it, in a nice theater, if it was, just me, or it was like a quieter theater and I was just watching to enjoy the music, yeah, I'd probably enjoy it. I'd probably watch it. That's okay. But this right here is a lot. Man, by the way, why is it we have so many horror movies right now and nothing else? You're telling me that everybody wants to go to the movies right now in October. You only want to go to horror movies? Is that it? Because that bothers me. I'm looking at the release schedule for October, and like I said, there's not much going on. But when I'm looking at it, her movie comes out on the 13th, and there's nothing else releasing on October 13th. So I'm asking myself, what am I going to watch instead? You know, I got to see if there's any movies that are coming out that I can actually catch, because I did watch The Creator, and I watched Dumb Money last week in the movie theater. But there's nothing right now I have until Killers of the Flower Moon, October 20th. There's nothing I got else. I just don't know what they're going to do. So I'm stuck. It sucks like that, but what can I do about it? As a Regal Unlimited subscription holder, it befows me that I can't find any movies to go watch at the Regal, because unless I want to watch the movie again. I guess I could go watch The Creator again, I guess. If I had to do something. I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. But there's no movies coming out this weekend where I could go watch, because there's 3 movies coming out, wide release, all horror movies. Exorcist Believer, which I've heard has already been panned, Hocus Pocus, the remake, and When Evil Lurks. All horror movies. And that's not counting what's at the end of the month for horror movies. We got After Death and Five Nights at Freddy's. So, what am I going to do there? That's all coming up, too. So now, Swift's concert film is going to be shown on 8,500 cinemas across 100 countries, opening the theaters widescreen release October 13th. And by the way, the 13th is the pop star's lucky number. And the movie will be shown not just at AMC locations, but a lot of theaters, pretty much. And right now, industry experts expect that the Eras Tour could pass $100 million in just North America for box office figures. During opening weekend. That would be only 5 other films that have already broken $100 million in the first week. Barbie, Super Mario Brothers, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is the only one, the last one is the last one I did not watch. Everything else I did watch. Anyways. And ticket sales are crazy. So AMC Theaters saw the first day ticket sales $26 million in advance. And then a lot of advanced ticket sales, especially for IMAX and Dolby Cinema, to watch it on the big screen and really get the full experience. So every AMC theater that you have around you, they'll be playing it 4 times a day, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Imagine Swifties will probably go ahead and come back and watch it again and again. So maybe it is a good idea to go and stay clear of the theaters if you're not a Taylor Swift fan and you're not a horror movie fan, which, or like me, I just can't handle going out into some big crowded thing like a concert, going to watch Taylor Swift. I don't think I could do it. But of course, all the positive publicity doesn't sway away from the fact we can have some negative publicity. Well, now we have some here. Because apparently there's some talk about sex tapes. And we'll talk about what that is all said about. It's a joke about supposed sex tapes. So let's go and talk about that. And here is what spawned the talk about this. Big Cat, who's with Barstool Sports, at Barstool Big Cat on X, he said on the Pardon My Take podcast, if Taylor Swift is going to be taking over Sundays, I'm going to need to see a sex tape. These are my demands. So he's trying to make a joke. This did not go over well. Let's just play it for you.
And Taylor Swift release a sex video, I'll consummate this relationship and be like, fine, you guys can have sex. You can be boyfriend, girlfriend. I don't buy it until I see some dick in vagina.
Do you think, is she
I'm saying that right now.
Is she pregnant?
P&V.
I haven't seen her drinking at these games. I saw her drinking some juice.
P&V, otherwise it's not really.
Drinking some juice.
Should we demand it?
I want to see.
I want to see P&V. I want to see insertion.
I want to see P.
Oh my goodness. Well, talk about locker room talk. Oh God. Look, I I get the guy's trying to make a joke, but that did not go over well. And you know who had decided to go ahead and defend Taylor Swift out of all this? The young lady that was in West Side Story, that was in the last Shazam movie, and she is now going to be in the Hunger Games, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and was cast to be the new Snow White until she wasn't. Rachel Zegler. So she's speaking up in defense of Taylor Swift in light of criticism around her rumored relationship with Travis Kelce. So we just heard what Dan Katz from Barstool Sports, the Barstool Big Cat, said on the Part of My Take podcast, saying doesn't know if the relationship is real. And here comes what Rachel Zegler said on X. Quote, it's not news that the media is particularly and unwarrantedly cruel to Taylor Swift, but the way men feel entitled to speak about women, their bodies and their sex lives, needs to be seriously evaluated. You will never see people speaking this way about a man. That goes for a lot of scenarios. We do not pick apart men's attitudes and relationships the way we do women's. And it's not always just men who speak this way about us. Women can and do it too. It sucks. Leave Taylor Swift alone. Exclamation point. And then a few hours later, she responds back again saying, seeing a lot of it's a joke, but you've got to understand that since the beginning of time, you can't take a joke has been synonymous with, let me say a horrible thing about women without suffering the consequences. We're sick and tired. It's never been funny. Get a life. You know, she got into it. And you know what? The sports community has been a little bit up in arms about this anyway. Like sports fans or sports commentators, it's just the sports media, they don't respond really well to this. They don't really know how to handle celebrity or handle, entertainment. They just don't. And, Barstool Big Cat making the joke, which would make laughs out of the predominantly male audience, football fans that are watching. But like the real, the underbelly of football fans that or raunch or whatever, just kind of like the guys, right? The ones that kind of depicted in Barbie, the swirling beer drinking guys, going on their bikes and their cars and all this stuff, and they're men, right? That stereotypical, toxic masculinity, all this patriarchy kind of stuff that everybody's talking about, right? The thing is, look, you know what? If Barstool Big Cats probably said that 20 years ago, probably wouldn't have heard a thing about it. Now people are extra sensitive, so yeah. It doesn't work anymore. First of all, it wasn't funny, but second, it doesn't work anymore. You're just not gonna. Nobody's gonna find that fun. You're gonna be for the amount of people that you think you're gonna find it funny. You're gonna find 10 times more people that are gonna criticize it. Like you're just gonna get canceled for that. That's just the way media is right now. So that was put out there, and Rachel Zegler, hey, credit to her for defending Taylor Swift. I don't know how they had a relationship, but okay, she decided to go ahead and jump in and talk about it. All right. So the criticism, there's been some. Travis Kelce saying they're overdoing it without mentioning her name. Yeah, I don't have a problem with him saying that. It was a little overkill. Yes. But that's the NFL going to do that. You already know they're going to do that. Not even a question. They can't help themselves. So they decided to go that route, and that's what they're going to do. Deal with it. Now, I also can't go ahead and finish up on Taylor Swift without talking about another story from Parade Magazine. Why Parade Magazine? Listen, it's funny who's coming out of the woodwork to go and bring up stories. Like People, Parade, what is this, the 80s? Anyways. NFL Philadelphia Eagles star is begging Taylor Swift to skip Travis Kelce's upcoming game with the Eagles, which is one of the best teams in the NFL. The 5-time Pro Bowler was on his recent Big Play Slay podcast and directed a comical request straight to Swift. He says, Taylor, do not come to the game because it seems like you bring the energy of winning, so do not come to that game. And so right now, the Chiefs, by the way, let's pick up at this point too, is that the Kansas City Chiefs are 3-1 since the start of the season. And so, she's been there for 2 wins of Travis's. And by the way, Darius Slay is a teammate of Jason Kelce. Like, there's all this going on, and whatever it is that happens, people can go ahead and comment about it, and it'll end up getting some kind of press. Like, it was not that hard to go and find everything, but like I said, I'm not going to finish and continue to go the whole time talking about Taylor Swift. We'll bring it up, what's pertinent, and we've done it. Oh, by the way, Donna Kelsey's not going to be on the Today Show. Oh, boy. This is, like, enough. But anyways. There is a bit of overkill through all this, but we're not going to go and continue on that. Let's go to my other story that I wanted to also bring into the play, which, when we talked about this a couple weeks ago, Drew Barrymore. When she pissed some people off, talking about she was going to bring her show back while the writer's strike was still going on, and making the Drew Barrymore show a struck show, she did it. So she, first of all, about a month ago, she had mentioned that she was going to bring her 4-season debut without the striking writers. A week later, after Barrymore faced backlash and at least a few panic guest cancellations, she reversed course, paused the show's return until the writer's strike concluded. But now that the writer's strike is over, the show's coming back October 16th, and 3 of the writers, Chelsea White, Christina Kinnon, and Liz Coe, are declining an offer to return to the show, according to sources. And now the production has to pick new writers that'll be in compliance with the guild. So yeah, these 3 writers decided they're going to go ahead and, it's basically punishing for Drew Barrymore for doing what she did, because she went and basically crossed picket lines. So these 3 writers, visible and vocal in their protest during the show's return to production in mid-September. These women, who shared the title of co-head writer, had been with the series since season 1, and they picketed outside of Drew's Manhattan studio on multiple days. And then September 11th, the first day back of production for Drew Barrymore's show, they told Hollywood Reporter that they found out Drew was returning, not from their boss or colleagues, but through audience ticket giveaways that had been posted on social media. And at the time, they were asked, would they return to the show once the strike is resolved? They said no comment. Now, even though the show is not under specifically, like, her show did not violate SAG-AFTRA rules. She's produced under the network television code. Separate contract, not struck. And then she obviously apologized after so much blowback from this. But Hollywood's not going to look good on her. And so my guess is going to be that I don't know if she's going to get a lot of guests that are going to come back to the show, but I think it's not just these people that are going to be upset about what happened. I think it's going to be more to that. And so she did this, and a Hollywood Reporter reported on it, and it happened. And she made a big mistake. And what does it tell you about, the ramifications of what the writer's strike is going to do? I mean, she, of all people, should understand with Hollywood Union, she's a SAG-AFTRA member. Active. And then she does this, and it's a big mistake. I don't know why she did it, but it was not smart. Now, originally, the SAG-AFTRA and the studios were going to continue negotiations for the actors to get off a strike, and there was going to be more bargaining sessions. Well, we now know that the negotiations are going to continue Friday and Monday. So into the weekend. There will be more negotiations needed for the former's ongoing strike for the AMPTP to go and meet for more strike talks. So there was already a full day bargaining session they had on Wednesday, right? And negotiations will continue on Friday, October 6th, and resuming October 9th. Studios and streamers in the guild concluded the second section of talks, and little details coming up about the framework for a potential deal, or more importantly, what might be holding it up. But right now, the mood in Hollywood is equally panicked and exasperated as the industry awaits an outcome on the negotiations. Writers Guild got their deal, cautiously realigning calendars and preparing to spring back into action. Not only dealing with a logjam of shuttered productions, but also an attempt to salvage the film award season by trotting out star talent. SAG-AFTRA looking for a 3-year contract, favorable from the producers. We've talked about the key deal points but we'll bring it up again. They want increased protection for actors from advancing AI, unprecedented profit participation from streaming revenue, which the WGA was successful in getting both points taken care of. And all the studios are continuing to go ahead and negotiate with the negotiators of SAG-AFTRA in general. They're all continuing to talk, which is good. I think they'll eventually get themselves there, but it's still where the actors need to also protect themselves. They just can't go ahead and fall in after the writers got their deal done, which is why they're doing that in general. A couple things about peak TV and streaming to bring up. We're not going to go super long tonight, folks, just to give you the heads up. Kind of quiet on the front, if you will. Wall Street Journal put out a big posting about the fact that streaming and peak TV is over and different Hollywood is coming. We talked about the fact that studios and streamers would order fewer TV shows. So this is from last week, but I don't think I had a chance to go and bring the story in, but it was a pretty big story they brought in. And streamers are going to have to find a way to pay increased talent costs from the writer's settlement, and an earlier deal with directors and whatever is finalized with actors without adding to their overall production costs. So what are they going to do about that? You also have to consider a combination of mergers, mounting losses in streaming, and the fast shrinking cable TV bundle. So Wall Street is on entertainment companies to rein in spending. See, there was a point where streaming services were kind of the Wild West. Those days are over. Because, but the decade before, streaming companies were anti-establishment insurgents. Streamers like Netflix, Max, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime Video are the new establishment, and negotiations with writers reflected that. And now they got the deal affecting digital streaming completely done now, which is what they wanted to get. Now, Hollywood's current problems are structural issues much bigger than the familiar search for hits. And now it's going to come lightly from the boardroom than the writer's room. Too many streaming services, creating confusion for consumers and hopeless economics for the companies. Consolidation with mergers, joint ventures, or bundles has to come to the streaming world for the industry to be viable, which is what it always does. Now, let's talk about when are all the programming coming back. So we already know the late night shows have already come back. They can't get actors on as guests because their strike is still unresolved. Now, writing activities on scripted shows can resume. So Abbott Elementary from ABC, NBC's Law & Order franchise, streaming and premium cable stuff like Stranger Things and White Lotus can return back. Production can't start until the Screen Actors Guild reaches a labor deal with the studios. Still, we got that to deal with. So we can't get completely done. But it could still be many weeks and a lot for shows and movies into 2024 before shooting begins. And then they talk about the streaming era shaping up for consumers. So we already see the cost of streaming subscriptions. They're going up. And now there's a new array of subscription tiers and packages. Some streamers experiment with add-on sports plans, ad-supported tiers. We know Amazon Prime is going to add ad-supported now, coming up. So for the writers, it was worth it. As we said, they made the right move, and they got themselves better. And so right now, the bonuses are going to be considerable for what they're getting, more or less. So as a result of what the writers got, there's some information about that. One example the Writers Guild provided is that now, let's say, the writers or writers on an hour-long show produced by Netflix will receive foreign residual payments now amounting to a total of $32,830 over 3 years, which is now up from what would have been $18,000 over 3 years. But now, TV shows and the writers are going to get paid more for the success of those shows. And the bonuses from those shows could be anywhere from $9,000 to $40,000 for the largest streaming services, depending on the type and length of programming. And that's what Wall Street Journal said. But now what about streaming itself? That's the benefit for the writers. But in the strike, the consumers, the people that watch, they're losing out at the end of the day. So streaming was supposed to save us money, but it's getting more expensive. And now the cost is where we are. So Wall Street Journal reported Tuesday that Netflix plans to raise prices a few months after the ongoing actor strike comes to an end. Mashable noted the company has implemented hikes of $1 to $2 a couple of times per year, semi-regularly. Netflix did not respond to Yahoo Entertainment's request for comment, but they're not alone with bumping up the price. So here's what the prices are for the other streaming services. Hulu, options now for bundling Hulu with Disney Plus or ESPN Plus at a discount. Package for Hulu with ads, $7.99. Without ads, $14.99. Now it's going to go up to $17.99 per month beginning October 12th. So as you hear this show, Hulu's going up by quite a bit. $3. The Hulu Live TV option is now $50 a month, $49.99 for the first 3 months, $76.99 after that. Max, right now, $9.99 with ads, or $99 a year. $15.99 ad-free, or $149 a year. $19.99 per month, or $199 per year for ultimate ad-free, giving subscribers the best video and sound experience and more options to download content. Apple TV right now, their TV subscription alone runs $6.99 a month. Prime Video, we already know they're going to be going up a couple of bucks, so you don't have to worry about ads. Peacock, $5.99 a month, or $59.99, or now $11.99 a month, or $19.99 a year. So like it went up $1 for those that are ad tier streaming, which is mine, and the other one it went up, I think it was $9.99, and now it went up $2. Disney Plus, $7.99 a month with ads, $10.99 a month without ads. Paramount Plus, $5.99 per month, or $59.99 a year. And they also have a package that includes Showtime for $11.99 monthly, or $19.99 annually. YouTube TV right now, $52.99 a month for the first 3 months, goes up to $72.99. Again, $70 plus all the other things you want to watch. You're still getting a bill over $100. Like right now in my house, we have the Uverse 450 plan. After it's all said and done, now we get the access on cable and on streaming. We can stream, Showtime, Stars, Max. I think we have everything except MGM Plus. We're paying $200 off the top, $200 flat, and it's been pretty much like that. Meanwhile, you're going to pay for YouTube TV that's not going to have everything for you, $72, not counting premium channels. Now, in the cable aspect, cable bundles a lot, but of course, the Financial Times in August calculated that ad-free subscriptions with Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, and Peacock cost $87. $83 is the average cost of cable. Well, that's basic cable. But we know that all these people that are doing streaming, they want premium content, which is why they're paying the money they're paying. Plus, they have to worry about local channels and all that stuff, too. At the moment, Dish Network is advertising 190 channels for $79.99 a month. $79.99 a month. Yep. They talked to a professor of Columbia Business School specializing in digital business, and he told the Financial Times that from a business point of view, streaming was going to have to move up in this way. The price point was going to have to go up, and we're all feeling it, no matter what. So there's no stories in radio to talk about this week, so we're not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about media in terms of news, because there are a few things we could talk about there in that respect. One thing we'll talk about here is AMP. Remember Amazon AMP? I talked about that. I forget how long ago it was, but they launched it. Oh, March 2022. Right. Only been 18 months, and now it's gone. So Amazon's pulling the plug on AMP. I actually got onto it and finally checked it out. I didn't like it at all. Because one of the things you want to do as a radio DJ is you want to talk over records. But you couldn't do that. You'd have to actually program a point after a song ends and then talk. And then the next song would have to play. But you can't crossfade. You can't do anything like that. So what's the purpose? So a statement that was emailed to GeekWire on Wednesday, Amazon announced that in creating, quote, AMP, we tried something that had never been done before, built a product that gave creators a place where they could build genuine connections, share a common love for music. We learned a lot about live music communities interact in the process, which is why we're bringing to bear as we build new fan experiences at scale in Amazon Music. And they said that clearly after months of careful consideration, they determined that the investments Amazon wants to make in the future, they had big plans to reimagine radio with AMP, and they signed on music personalities Nicki Minaj, Pusha T, and Travis Barker to promote the app. But October, AMP was already in trouble as Amazon conducted layoffs within the service. Company spokesperson said that Amazon continually evaluates the progress and potential of products and services, making adjustments based on those assessments. So they made a decision to consolidate a few teams so they could focus on the growth and scaling of AMP. Insider reported there was more trouble at that service. Leadership changes happened, and questions submitted for an internal town hall meeting ranged from concerns about AMP's business outlook to a lack of trust in the leadership team and allegations that internal work culture has grown toxic. So Amazon's no stranger to Amazon content. They have Amazon Music and Audible, and they've been in the podcast since 2020. They're still going to be in the audio sector, but the AMP project, while it was a nice idea, I thought it would make a difference. It didn't, because it wasn't well made. Like, it was done. I mean, you could use it, but the purpose of it. And I want to say this. I think that Amazon AMP could have been done where they could have created the radio process, because it already costs quite a bit to go ahead and do the radio process when you want to do a streaming station, which people still try to do now, live. And I've had people wanted to consult with me on doing live streaming audio. You have to pay sound exchange. You have to pay for the royalties to stream content. Pay for the bandwidth to run the streaming on a server. And also having the computer itself as a server to run the content. And then if you want to have people or resources to go ahead and put ads in there, or if you want to run whatever music you want to have, you got to constantly change up things. Well, AMP would have had the music from Amazon Music at your disposal. So you could have curbed the whole deal of the royalty rights, which would have been nice. And you would have had streaming right there where people could go ahead and interact with a radio station built on AMP. But that's what they didn't do here. I would love to see if another company comes in and decides, you know what AMP was doing was actually not bad, but we want to have people be able to go and have their own radio stations. And they can play music using the app that's proprietary on the app without paying royalties. A free experience. So all these people can be amateur DJs. That was the idea. That's the concept that should have been fermented off of Amazon AMP, but it wasn't. And that's a mistake. So we're not going to get that again. That's too bad. Now, you know, sometimes I like to go into journalism and the news and media like that, where I don't want to talk about the politics. Because, of course, the Broadcasters podcast is very much apolitical. That's what we do. But this story from Neiman Lab, from the Neiman Foundation at Harvard, put out a very interesting story. And I caught this and I wanted to go ahead and bring this up. What is news anyway? Readers' answers depend on how much they see people like themselves in the story. So sometimes when people talk the news, they really mean politics and government. News changes at scale. Some news is hard, others is soft, and often subject to being declared not news at all. But there's a boundary between news and entertainment, but it's not easy to point it on a map. The label of news implies a certain worthiness, a justification of its request for your attention. These are all important distinctions, they say. The primary discourse around news the past 2 decades has been about saving it. Something we value is threatened. But before we get into debates about quality or importance, it's hard to say something when you can't even define it. So it was a paper that was published, University of Minnesota, and also another school, Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism, Media, and Missing Conjunctions, trying to define the quality of newsiness. And there's an abstract from it. A byproduct of today's hybrid media system is that genres, once uniformly defined and enforced, are now murky and contested. We developed the concept of newsness, defined as the extent to which audiences characterize specific content as news, to capture how audiences understand and process media messages. Well, it still comes down to the fact you need to have 5 questions that are asked on a typical news story. And if a story is going to be an opinion or an editorial, it should be commented as such. That there might be news included in the story, but there's a commentary that's going to be biased and going to be different than what the story might be. They might give a different take on what the story is because they're interpreting or analyzing it. So when publishing was limited before pre-digital, News was largely defined by its production. The stuff that gets printed every morning and delivered to people's houses. A newspaper. What's inside it was news. If you watch Tom Brokaw, Peter Jennings, Dan Rather on the news on TV at 6:30 on the evening news, your local anchors for half an hour, you were watching the news. The medium constructed the boundaries of the message, but now digital has changed it. So who has the decision-making authority to determine what is news? Well, they say it's not the audience. It's the audience, the readers, the viewers, and the listeners, not the news professionals sitting in newsrooms. So the control of what is being deemed news and what is considered news has changed. But the problem is that all these news outlets, they still try to treat this as traditional news, and it's not. Media hybridization makes the classification of genres, and specifically the features that lead someone to consider content, as more or less news-like, even more important for understanding audience sense-making and response. With content and sources available to audiences in the modern media environment, those that deceptively masquerade as news, scholarly research needs to consider when audiences are likely to consider something news and how this label impacts their processing and response. But see, also, the way we receive news is different. Because also, we're not getting the full context of news. And what we have with internet, with digital, with online, it changes the dynamic altogether because we can't get the news we wanted it like anymore because no one has the attention span anymore to take a story, investigate it, and understand everything about it. And get all the sources and all the materials together and let the audience, the writer, the reader, the watcher, disseminate it. Okay? There might still be shows like Dateline NBC or 48 Hours, but they don't hold up, or 2020, but they're not the kind of shows or content that audiences will catch up on. Maybe they'll catch a documentary, but we're talking about news in the current. There's not a lot of investigative journalism anymore because it costs too much, and there's just not enough people out there that can do good investigative journalism, except for those that, you know what, they're not being relied upon by major mainstream media outlets. They're going to Substack. Or they're going to Twitch or wherever else they want to go. Or they're going to YouTube or, pick it. That's what they're doing. So there's a story that was a title, Relevance is a Mechanism in Evaluating Newsness Among American Teens and Adults. So in this, they say that, quote, definitions of news are increasingly fraught in today's media environment, making audience assessments of newsness particularly important. Drawing from literature on representation of news and newsness, we explore how seeing news that features a similar age group affects ratings and newsness. 2 experiments were done among teens and adults in the U.S. The results confirm that proximity in terms of age of the groups represented in news affects audience evaluations of newsness, with relevance acting as a mediator to linking proximity and newsness. These results are replicated across issues and among American teens and adults. So what do we have as news now? When people don't trust the reporting that's being done by a particular news outlet, we don't worry about that because we can always see people that are citizen journalists recording video, recording the news as it happens. They're using their camera phone and they're getting the news. So when we see a story or something that comes out of a security footage, whatever there is, we're seeing a lot of footage of actual stories where the context is there. And we don't need somebody else to go ahead and help us interpret what the story was. This is how it works. And that's the part they talk about. Also, the people that are watching on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or X. In the story, they talk about the fissures of age, specifically young people. Teenagers and young adults have famously different media consumption patterns than those middle age or older. Also, they talk about where the news that they have has to be also targeted towards the age groups. So any information or news about depression diagnoses, they are going to be more favorable stories that younger adults are want to be interested in. Student debt default among younger adults, they also will be more interested in that kind of story. If it's a story about Alzheimer's diagnoses, that will be more interesting to an older audience. And retirement savings among older adults, has gone less than what it was. Interesting. Like, just some stories mean or relevant more relevant than others now these days. They talk about headlines. There's a significant negative indirect pathway for younger adults with exposure to a story headline featuring older adults as compared to younger adults, producing an indirect negative effect on newsness via lowered perceived relevance. The pattern reversed for older adults, seeing a story headline featuring older adults led indirectly to higher newsness via perceived relevance. No indirect effect on newsness for featured audiences for middle-aged adults, likely because they reported no differences in the perceived relevance of the headline. So if it relates to an audience, then it's newsworthy to that audience. That's what they're explaining here. Audience evaluations resemble journalistic decisions about newsworthiness. Proximate stories hold greater news value because they're more relatable. And they're trying to recommend that stories that are being written now, that are going to be published, they need to feature people like the audiences. The disconnect many young people feel come from a lack of representation, which they show violates a fundamental aspect of how audiences, teens and adults, define what is news. So now you need to worry about how much relevancy a story has to a particular audience. That's what they're trying to go ahead and consider. All right, that's the show. A little bit short tonight, but we got everything in. And thank you for listening to the program. I got to get up early. I got to go to a doctor's appointment, all that good stuff. And then, start my weekend. Unfortunately, I don't have a movie to watch this weekend, which really sucks. So I don't even know what I'm going to do this weekend to kind of work through all that. But I guess I'll figure out something. Somehow, some way. I'll figure it out. That's the show for tonight. You can find all of my content, kingofpodcasts.com. I have a YouTube channel at King of Podcasts. Please subscribe to it. Look for all new content there, including this program. And make sure to go and find all new episodes of the Broadcasters Podcast there. And of course, wherever you find podcasts, the Broadcasters Podcast is at. You can find it over Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all of the places. So come back next week for another Broadcasters Podcast. And remember, content is king, and the control of your content is in your hands.